right, welcome to Brews and Boxing. I'm your host today, Filthy Rich. I got Judge Jimmy James in the shotgun seat because I'm in the driver's seat. We'll try it again. Whatever. We'll fail again too. James, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I know you talk a lot about the Yankees, but the Twins are still up there giving a fight at the beginning of the year. I didn't think they were going to be this good. So, pretty excited for baseball. So hopefully we'll meet in the playoffs and we can get a little judgment day if that ever happens, but probably not because it's kind of how Minnesota sports roll. But whatever, man. The hope is still there.
Heck yeah. And speaking of the Yankees, Derek Jeter joined social media, answered a bunch of questions. And a little LeBron James fact for you, for all the fans out there. Only player in NBA history to average a triple-double in a finals series. Finals are underway, Boston versus Golden State. So all that BS talk. Before we get on with the show, let's crack our brews and give a toast and a cheers. And I missed.
Oh, can't say Kobe or Jeter on that one. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy. All right, let's move on with the show. All right, time for a little brews and news. Quite a few stories we are going to be getting into today. The first big one, I think it's the big one. Anthony Joshua looks like he's going to be switching trainers in preparation for the Usyk fight this summer, I believe in Dubai, somewhere in the Middle East. Anthony Joshua is moving over to Robert Garcia, who's known for a more brawling type style and is also known for having a plan B and switching up the game plan when things aren't working well. And we know we've talked about Joshua before in his tactics, fighting in general. Robert Garcia has trained like the names of Marcos Maidana, Abner Mares, Jose Ramirez, Brandon Rios, Nonito Donaire, his younger brother Mikey, who's like a 4-division champ, who's like kind of fell off as of late. But James, I just want to get your thoughts on Anthony Joshua switching to Robert Garcia. Do you think this is a good fit for him?
Well, when you put it with the stylistic change that you're saying, where he's even more aggressive than his previous trainer, which I believe was Rob McCracken, I don't know if that's going to be the best move. However, if you've seen anything when you're fighting bigger guys fighting smaller guys, and Joshua is a bigger guy fighting a smaller Usyk, using your size for an advantage is something that you will do. And look at Fury and Wilder. That's literally what Fury did for 3 fights and reigned supreme every single time, regardless of taking some shots and things like that, which Usyk is definitely going to hit you. He's definitely the more skilled boxer. But if you can use your size to your advantage, and Garcia can actually, he was a 2012 trainer of the year. So 10 years away, but those are big names that you just listed, at least to me, that, what I think is that he thinks he's trained 12 champions or
Probably
the people,
right.
Something like that. But it's going to be interesting. It's not going to hurt if he definitely has a plan B, and that's going to be good because we have seen Joshua come back in secondary fights and do better than he did in the first fight. So, however, he, doesn't usually get challenged too much. Usually if you win, you don't change much. It's the challenger that's required to change. So I think it's going to be, like I said, it can't hurt. It's definitely an interesting move. We'll see if Usyk does anything different, but I doubt it. But I think if this changes the game, it might change Usyk's stance a little bit. And then we'll see if Papachenko does anything different with this training, but I highly doubt it, to be honest. But yeah, that's I think the biggest advantage if he is going to be more aggressive would be his size, utilize his size somehow. So
yeah, look, I'm reading, I want to say on social media, because let me kind of stay away from that, but people are saying Anthony Joshua is a great fighter, Robert Garcia is a great trainer, but the two of them, it does not seem like the match made in heaven. I will, on the other hand, give Joshua some credit here because it wasn't just a rush to this decision. It sounds like he interviewed like 5 other trainers, 5 like big name trainers, and he settled with Robert Garcia, who's actually going to go out to London to train Joshua for this upcoming fight. So, look, I'm glad you brought up the Tyson Fury trainer change. I don't know if we were hesitant on that because Tyson won the first time, but I think this is going to work, especially the way he's known to adapt in the middle of a fight. Robert Garcia is. So if he can get Joshua to adapt, this might work. Is it the long-term solution? I don't know. I don't know how many even Golovkin move into Banks. We don't know if Banks is a long-term solution. We just know Golovkin's like career is almost, it's coming to an end. So Joshua still has a few years left. Is he going to stick with Garcia? If he beats Usyk, we'll see. If the style works, great. But in a general sense, I like McCracken, but I think when you're up against a different beast, it's time for a new game plan. And I like this move by Anthony Joshua. Anything before we move on?
No, I mean, like you said, he didn't take this lightly. Visited Virgil Hunter, Eddie Reynoso, Ronnie Shields. Like he toured the U.S. If you remember watching any of these news stories, he was always in like, oh, maybe he's in Reynoso's camp, maybe he's in Virgil, saying that stuff. So he obviously is putting in the thought behind it, right? So yeah, I mean, do I think he's gonna win? We'll probably talk about that later, but I don't really, it's I don't know. It definitely can't hurt him. He won't do any worse than he did in the first fight against Usyk. So props to him.
Definitely. Our second big story of the day. We're finally seeing Danny Garcia fight at 154. It's been announced Danny Garcia is going to be fighting Jose Benavidez Jr. at 154, I think sometime this summer. This is Garcia's debut at 154, who I don't think he's been in the ring in close to a year and probably over a year at this point. And Jose Benavidez, last I saw him, he got knocked out in the 12th round by Terrence Crawford at the 147 division, moved up to 154 only to get a draw. And it sounds like it was the refs did him a favor there. So any thoughts, or what are your thoughts on Garcia versus Benavidez Jr. at 154?
Well, a couple of stats. Obviously, you touched a little bit on this, right? So Danny Garcia hasn't fought in a year and a half. Jose Benavidez Jr., who, if you didn't know, is the brother of David Benavidez, hasn't, well, technically, if you throw out his last fight in 2021, he hasn't fought in 3 years, and is after his loss to Terrence Crawford. So that says a lot, right? I believe that Benavidez's last fight, which was a majority draw, ended up being at 154. So this is the debut for Danny Garcia at 154. The biggest thing that I keep reading about this after it's been done is the size. The size difference is going to be too much for Garcia to beat Jose Benavidez Jr. And if you want to take size into account, something we've talked about before, Canelo Alvarez and Bivol literally was a size difference that was just too great to overcome. So Danny Garcia being 5'8", Benavidez Jr. being 6 feet tall, has a 4-inch reach advantage. We'll see how that stuff translates over. But honestly, I think this is, for these two cats, this is an extremely important fight for both of them. I know Jose Benavidez is 30, Danny Garcia is 34. This is a big step up for both of these guys to see if they still have it and to see if they can get some championship fights. So I think it's, regardless of what I think the outcome is, I think this is a great move, and this is going to be good for boxing, because this should produce fireworks, because these guys they have skills, they have good skill sets. It should be a great fight.
Yeah, I think this is gonna show and prove if Garcia does belong at 154. And we've been ranking the 154 division and 147 without Garcia for a long time, Danny Garcia, because we don't know where he's at. Now he's officially at 154. This is, I mean, styles make fights. Benavidez is not a top 10 fighter at 154, in my opinion, and probably yours as well. I think Danny has to beat him. And I don't think Danny is making it's not that a bad decision, but he's not going to put himself in danger. If he sees something that he can do to Benavidez Jr., I think he signs on the dotted line, which is what was done. I still worry for Danny. I still think he belongs at 147 because he put up some fights against Porter and Spence. Lost, came on the short end on both of them, but whooped up Adrian Granados. I don't know if that's a name anymore, but I thought it was at the time. So yeah, I'm glad to see Danny back in the ring. I wish him the best. We'll see where his career goes after this fight, but again, styles make fights. This is probably going to be 50-50. I don't know who's going to win this one. What else you want to add?
That's fair. I mean, just to put stuff into context, if you guys don't know anybody about this, obviously Jose Benavidez Jr. doesn't have much on his resume besides Terrence Crawford, but Danny Garcia's only 3 losses were to Keith Thurman, which was controversial split decision, loss, unanimous decision to Sean Porter, and then another loss unanimously to Errol Spence Jr. So if you want to talk about resumes, like Garcia is still the real deal. And from what I've seen it before, Swift still has moves. We'll just see if this is too big of a jump for him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Sounds good. Another story we got here. Another fight's been signed. Mick Conlon, coming off that loss to Lee Wood, getting knocked out of the ring in the 12th round, is moving up to fight Miguel Mariaga at 135. I think this makes for a pretty good fight. I'm interested to see Conlon move up, but what are your thoughts on Conlon Mariaga?
Well, I'm glad that he's back in the ring, that he's getting back in the ring, and not really too far away, man, 2 months away, right? And I'm glad he's getting in there against, to me, a bigger name fight, right? Because Laywood, for me, Laywood is less known to me than Miguel Mariaga is. I know more about Miguel Mariaga than I would against Laywood. So I think that he's coming back to a very difficult fight. I mean, Mariaga's only lost 4 times or something like that. Maybe, well, I guess the thing says 5 times. I'm only going to say 4 times. He lost to the Axeman way back in the day. Oscar Valdez, probably hyped up on drugs. Lomachenko, everyone loses to Lomachenko, and then Joet Gonzalez, who isn't, not a bad fighter at all. He did lose to Zerto Ramirez in his last fight too, so that's not. He's got good fights. I think it's Zerto, isn't that Eduardo Ramirez?
No, Zerto Ramirez.
It's Gilberto,
yeah, 175.
Well, that's my bad.
Well, Zerto would whoop him.
Okay. Oh, sorry. It was Zerdito.
I got
what that means. I don't know in Spanish, but Eduardo Ramirez is Zerdito. Gilberto Ramirez is Zerto. I don't know what that means in Spanish. Somebody put it in the comments, because obviously I don't know anything other than English, and I don't even speak that very well. So, but either way, I think it's a good step. It's what he needs to do. He needs to get back in it and show that he still has it, because he was winning that entire fight until that knockdown, right? So, yeah, I think it's a great step, but it's a big challenge, and he's going to have to come prepared.
Yeah, I almost agree with everything you just said. There's nothing more. I mean, there's nothing to disagree with. The only thing I can really add is, I wonder if there was a Lee Wood rematch on the table, and maybe Lee Wood didn't want it. Lee Wood wanted to move on with his career. Maybe no one wanted a piece of Conlon, because, like you said, Conlon was dominating that fight. It wasn't until that last round where he ran out of gas. Lee Wood still had some left in the tank, and that was it. I mean, that was it. That was all she wrote. He didn't get up. I would have liked to see a rematch with those two. I still think that's fight of the year in my book. But if no one wants a piece of Conlon after putting up that kind of display, yeah, you probably got to move up a weight class and fight whoever's willing to sign on the dotted line. And props to Miguel Mariaga, who always signs on the dotted line. This dude don't duck nobody. So I expect a really good fight here. I expect some vegan barbecue at your house for that fight.
That's fair. I mean, even with that touch, like Laywood is still what they fought at 130. That was the spot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I haven't heard any mention of Laywood at this point. I mean, is there any mandatory for what he has for what the WBA? I think that's all he has, right? Just retain the WBA title.
It's probably right.
Is there any mandatory or anything like that? Like, I don't know anything else really about that, unfortunately. So
at the end of the day, wherever the big money is, skip the mandatory. If you can give me the big money fight, you could pay the WBA the sanctioning fee, the waiver. I know some of these boxing organizations, these alphabet titles, if you don't accept their mandatory, you pay them like double the fee and they let you sit on the title because you're still, I would like to think they would consider you a big star. So they still want you to hold their belt. And if Lee Wood has, five guys, a list of five guys he needs to choose from, according to the WBA or whoever it is, he may say, you know what, those five guys are great, but this guy number 6 over here produces big money. I'm going to take that big money fight and I'm going to pay you guys to shut the F up and move on and make this fight. And the WBA is going to shut up and take that money because they're a corrupt organization, just like the rest of them. Let me not get into that right now. Let's kind of wrap it up here. We got one final big fight. This is the big one that everyone's been talking about. Ryan Garcia, another Garcia on this list, is fighting Javier Fortuna. It's another fight at 135. I don't think this is the matchup I wanted to see Garcia against, but what are your thoughts on Ryan Garcia versus Javier Fortuna?
Well, no, this is definitely not at 135. This is not the guy that you want Ryan Garcia to fight. If he's touting what he's touting, this shouldn't be the fight that he's signing on the dotted line. I don't believe there's only one true thing that he said, and that was when he bet Errol Spence that Raleigh was going to beat Davis, and he didn't. It was 20 grand, and he paid whoever I just said, Errol Spence, sorry, having a lapse of judgment, and then Spence literally confirmed it on Twitter. That's the first real thing I think I've ever heard Ryan Garcia say. And it was confirmed by somebody else who obviously doesn't like to confirm anything. I'm pretty sure every time Errol Spence talks, he's always like, I don't confirm. I don't know, man. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, I mean, this is, at least he's getting back in the ring. His last fight was not that great against To-Go. Like, he looked flat-footed, and he's going to have to, shaking off that ring rust, right? And hopefully he gets back into it. But I mean, it's definitely not going to be a walk in the park either, because Fortuna's been around for it feels like forever, at least for me. But it's definitely, I guess it's a step in the right direction. We'll find out, but it's at least a step, man. I mean, I'm kind of curious as what you think about this. I think you know a little bit more about El Habayan.
Oh, is that Ryan Garcia's nickname? No, it's not.
No.
So like, I'm glad you brought up the Tagao fight. To-Go, I can't say the guy's name. I'm glad you brought that up, because like before that fight, he fought Luke Campbell and took a long hiatus for mental health issues. I was picking Luke Campbell to win that fight. I think Luke Campbell's an underrated fighter. At that time, he only lost the one fight to Lomachenko. So Luke Campbell versus Ryan Garcia seemed like a good matchup on paper. Luke Campbell knocked him down once. Garcia got back up and eventually knocked out Campbell in like the eighth round. And he had tears in his eyes and he was happy and all this good stuff. I get it. It's a great story. What I don't like about this Fortuna fight, I feel like maybe his promoter, Golden Boy, may be getting in the way here. 1 minute he's talking about Isaac Cruz. I want Isaac Cruz, and like I don't even remember what he says, because at most of the time when Ryan Garcia talks, I want to believe it. I want to like Ryan Garcia, but then these fights never happen. Now after Tank Davis versus Rolly Romero, he's calling out Tank. So you went from talking to Cruz, now you're talking trash to Tank. You're fighting Fortuna. How do we know you're even gonna step up to one of these guys at 135? It seems like you're gonna fight another gatekeeper, another surefire, I guess, victory. I don't think Javier Fortuna is a surefire win, but again, I think it's Golden Boy getting in the way here. I think I want to believe he actually wants bigger names, and I believe that Golden Boy is getting in the way. But what is he gonna do?
So then here's my question then, because if he's I wouldn't say that he's ducking people at 135, right? But say that's what he is doing. He's talking big game at 135. He's not fighting any of the big names at 135, which are, the four kings, which he's supposed to be part of. Do you believe that, to me, or let me position this. He's doing this, fighting at 135, getting off ring rust, and then he's going to, if he has anything, vacate, move up to 140 and start fighting people at 140. Do you think that's even a possibility? Because obviously the path to an undisputed victory at 140 is a hell of a lot easier than it is at 135.
Yeah, so I'd like to believe, look, Kambosos and Haney are about to fight. Someone's going to win that fight, and he's going to talk all this trash about I really believe he wants to fight these guys. I don't think he's ducking anyone. I think Golden Boy is protecting their new, I guess he's the new Golden Goose. After Canelo left, Ryan Garcia, last time we talked, he had 6 million Instagram followers. Let me tell you, he's up to 8 million. Think about that. That's a joke. But I think that is their new Golden Goose.
No fact check.
Yeah, I don't think he's ducking anyone. I think he wants these guys. I don't think he can beat these guys. I think he really wants them. I think Golden Boy doesn't think he can beat them. Now, as far as going up to 140, I think he's staying put at 135. He may let the rest of these guys move up to 140 before he moves. I think he's going to stay at 135. But yeah, the path is easier, though. Anything else before we... All right, well, that's it for Bruising News. I'm taking one more drink out of this and move on with the show. All right, time for some Bruising reviews here. Tank Davis and Rolly Romero had a big fight this past weekend. James, give us the details.
Oh boy. So if this wasn't hyped, I don't know what is, right? Well, at least by one person, because Rolly Romero never shut up. I believe he called Davis a koala head with chlamydia at one point, which I don't know, man. He's obviously got a lot of talk in his game. But getting to the fight itself, it finally was here. It finally started May 28th. And honestly, man, to me, didn't really disappoint. It came out with Rolly, I thought was going to be pretty aggressive, right? And he came out not as aggressive as I thought, but still being the more aggressive fighter. And Tank Davis, through the first, 1, 2, 3 rounds, was on his back foot, which was, to me, was pretty out there. I really wasn't anticipating that to happen. I thought Tank was going to be a little more aggressive himself, but obviously Rolly said he was going to come out and knock his head off in one, because look at the koala head, you can't not miss it. But he came out and looked, it kind of pains me to say a little bit, but he looked good. He did look a lot better than I thought he was going to come out to, because his last fight, he looked like one of those inflatable tube men that was just throwing his arms around and just didn't have any balance and was all over the place. So for Rolly to step up and do that, I thought that was good, because it was definitely putting Davis on his back, but he looked like the bigger fighter too. He looked like a big dude. So, but after through that, it looked, honestly, a lot of people had Rolly winning the first 4 rounds. I probably had it pretty close as well. 2-2, probably. And probably even go 3-1 Rolly. It was weird, to say the least. There was a couple of times that he took a few shots that it looked like it rocked Davis. I don't know if it actually rocked Davis, because Davis was trying to be pretty slippery through the entire fight. But once it got through the first 4 rounds, maybe just say the first 3.5 rounds, that's when Davis started to utilize his counter-punching ability and was coming in with some good shots. Really was overextending himself, still landing some good shots, but overextending himself, letting himself a little too open to Davis's punches, and then rolls through to the 6th round, and about 2.5 minutes in, it's looking like Rolly's doing pretty well against Davis, and Davis popped a straight left hand right to Rolly's face that he leaned directly into and knocked him straight to the moon, where if the ropes weren't there, he would have fell out and would have been just rolling around the ground trying to figure out where the hell he was. He got up at like 7, had the stanky leg. Judge told him to move to the right. Had the same move to the right again. Still had the stanky leg, which was crazy. You could see it if you watched the replays, and stopped the fight. At that point, it was just done. So it was a one-punch knockout TKO victory for Tank Davis in 6, which little sooner than I anticipated, but man, it was still, I don't know, I think it was still an interesting fight, and props to Davis, man. He came in and showed, did exactly what I thought he was going to do, knocking him out. So I don't know, it was great.
Yeah, I know that left hand after the fight, he said it wasn't even his I don't Scary Movie 2, my strong hand. It wasn't like I mean, it's his natural left hand, but he didn't hit him hard. He just hit him like a regular old left jab and didn't recover. So yeah, it was Rolly did better than expected on my end.
Oh yeah.
Now go ahead.
And I feel like that was like the Charlo Lubin punch, or the BJ, or the Canelo BJS punch, where the guy was trying to come in to throw or trying to adjust, and perfect timing, just perfect timing. Like, this is why he is the better skilled boxer, right? So I don't know. Either with all that said, I'm still curious as to what's next for both of these guys, because this is an interesting table, right? Especially with how Davis moves around, and who knows what the hell's on Rolly's mind. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what's next for these guys.
So look, I will say, I think Rolly got arrogant. I think Rolly thought he had it in the bag. He went in for the kill and got caught. I'm going to leave it at that. And as far as like let's just talk about what is next for Gervonta Davis and Rolly Romero. Like, in my opinion, next for Gervonta, we got to fight. We got Kambosos and Haney this weekend. I think he has to face the winner at 135. He has to face that winner. Your other option is like Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia is fighting Fortuna, but Ryan Garcia was talking head about Tank. So let's get it on. Let's do this. I think it's not even 3 names there, but it's the winner of Kambosos and Haney. One of those 2 guys needs to fight Davis, or it can be Ryan Garcia. I can't even throw in Lomachenko right now as an option because of what's going on overseas. But at some point, we're going to have to start talking Lomachenko again. But right now, if Lomachenko was an option, I'd throw him out there. But if there was a third option, because I'm not talking Lomachenko, it would have to be moving up to 140. He already fought Mario Barrios at 140. You struggled a little bit, and Mario Barrios is not a I don't think he's a top 10 guy at 140. Maybe he is, but maybe you need to start looking north of the border, and like, not the literal north of the border, but moving up to 140. That is always going to be there. Now, as far as Rolly Romero goes, we got Isaac Cruz as a contender. I think these two mesh really well. I think Isaac Cruz put up a good fight versus Davis. He's the only guy that went 12 rounds without being knocked down. I'd like to see, if Romero is the real deal, fight Isaac Cruz, see what you can make out of it. If Rolly just wants, I'm sorry, I got to call it a tune-up fight. If Rolly wants a tune-up fight, you know where I'm going. Oh, Jojo Diaz, man. It seems like everyone, it seems like Jojo has become not a tune-up, not a stepping stone, but like, I think he can beat Jojo Diaz. It's a big enough name to prove that you still belong at 135, because Davis was his biggest test at 135. Moving up to like the big dog in that division, if it's not Lomachenko, fight somebody right there in the middle. And Jojo Diaz is on the cusp of a top 10 fighter in this division. And lastly, I don't think this fight happens, but Richard Comey is a pretty tough fighter. He lost to Lopez, lost to Lomachenko last, but he still puts up a good fight. So again, if you want to prove that you belong here, I think Richard Comey makes a really good fit, and it would make a really good fight. Your thoughts on this before we move on?
Well, so you brought up a thing with Davis moves up to 140. I'd almost propose this to both of these fighters because they can easily both move up to 140 at this point, right? I think Davis is a better fight at 135. I think he should be staying at 135 and try to wipe out the division. It's the bigger name paydays, it's all that stuff. But a couple of people, with one in particular being Teofimo Lopez, has said that he's going to move up to 140. Do you believe that that would be a good fight for either of these two at 140? So I'm talking Rolly Lopez at 140 or Davis Romero at 140. Which one do you think would be the better, the not the better fight, but the
Or evenly
smarter,
matched?
like the smarter fight to moving up in weight at that point? Because that would be, I don't know, big, I think. So
Yeah, I think it would make. I think Romero, for some reason, I think Romero puts up a better fight against Lopez. I think Lopez probably wins. I probably wins, but like on the Davis end, I don't know if Tank Davis can beat Lopez. I think Lopez just has too much skills, and he's just a bigger dude. So it seems weird to say Davis just beat Romero, yet if they both move up to 140, Romero does better. I don't know how to explain it. That's the filthy logic for you for the day. What do you think?
I
Criticize me,
don't
James.
know I don't know how to explain that either, man. I don't. You just said that Lopez would beat Davis. I don't think anybody in that division beats Davis, with the exception of one person who we can't talk about right now. Um, I don't know. That's interesting, but yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how this stuff folds out because there's just so much talent. That 135 is so overloaded. Lightweight is so overloaded with talent. People got to go somewhere at some point, and the belts are going to have to disperse. So I don't know. It's going to be the future. The future is bright.
Look, I don't know how much time we have left, but like it sounds like Tank Davis's his contract is up with Mayweather, and he may be leaving Mayweather. I think Tank need. I don't think he's as polished as we all believe. I think he's like a Deontay Wilder rather than a Mike Tyson. This dude has like probably a couple punches. He's got enough skill to survive, but he's losing rounds the way Canelo was losing rounds to BJ Saunders and to other fighters. And that's why I think Lopez can beat Davis. I think Lopez just needs to avoid getting knocked out, which I think he could avoid getting knocked out and just run game on Davis. I think that is possible. Does that make sense? I don't want to talk about Romero, but as far as Lopez Davis goes, I think Lopez is the better boxer, and I think he can outbox Davis.
That's. I mean, I think I would. I think I would disagree. I think they're pretty evenly
Hell yeah.
matched. I think they're evenly matched. I think Davis is. I think Davis is more skilled than. I think he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He is a big puncher, and he definitely has power. But I don't think he's had to rely too much, besides the Cruz fight, on his skill. And if you look at the Cruz fight, it looked like Cruz to the common man, that Cruz was landing big shots and beating up Davis left and right. Go back and watch that. He was blocking a lot of stuff with his elbows, with his shoulders, the shoulder roll. Like the body shots are getting blocked, like the uppercuts are getting blocked. Like the defense that Davis was um, showing against Isaac Cruz was phenomenal. And I think that's the only reason why he survived it, right? Because I think Cruz has a lot of power just like Davis does. But I think he might play down to his opponent too. He could be, gosh darn, Minnesota sports, man. You're going to play down to your opponent, whatever opponent you're playing. If it's a crappy opponent, you're going to play crappy. If you're a good opponent, you're going to play good to a point. But yeah, I mean, that's probably all I got to add.
So Lopez Davis, you take Davis.
Yeah.
Lopez Romero, who you got?
Lopez.
Awesome. All right, well let's wrap that up there and move on to brews and previews. All right, let's move on here with a couple previews this weekend. George Kambosos is fighting Devin Haney. What do they call it? The Great Down Under down in Australia, Kambosos' hometown. So, James, why don't you break that fight down for us this weekend?
Well, I mean, I suppose we probably provide keys of victory, right?
Sure. I mean,
Biggest way to do it. I mean, this obviously is the fight to unify or to undisputed, whichever one. You want to correct me real quick? Which one gets all the belts in one division? Is that unified?
yes.
Whatever
Yeah, this
Josh
is a
Taylor did, whatever Canelo Alvarez
yeah, this is
did.
a unified championship, and it might be for the this might be for the undisputed ring, the lineal championship too. I think they are. I think Kambosos is number one according to Ring Magazine, and back in the, I mean, this all comes from back when magazines and newspapers used to give championships, and they have not been corrupt. There's probably some corruption, but this is probably for the lineal championship here.
Yeah, I think this is for all the marbles. So, I mean, this is going to be I think this is going to be a good fight. This is really Kambosos came out and shocked the world, beating Teofimo Lopez after Lopez beat an injured Lomachenko. And I'll say it. You guys can criticize me all you want for it, but this is going to be a good test of skill because Haney is not Lopez. Haney is a different style fighter than Lopez. So we'll see how Kambosos comes out. I think if you want to talk keys to victory for this, I think Kambosos is probably going to have the same game plan that he had against Lopez, to be honest. He's going to have to tweak it a little bit, but it's the aggressiveness is probably not going to be there. But Kambosos is going to have to wait, sit on his punches, make sure that he's disciplined and not get overzealous, right? With the different style of fight. With Haney, I think Haney's going to have to come out and be more aggressive, to be honest. I think he's been lackluster in his last couple of fights. He hasn't had the stamina, or well, he obviously has. He's won, but I don't think the stamina is there in the later rounds, those championship rounds, as everyone likes to call it, right? The 10, 11, 12 rounds, that he doesn't have that stamina there. So I think he's going to have to do something and do something quick, because if it gets to those championship rounds, I think Kambosos is going to be able to outlast him with stamina. So I think it's going to be very, very key that Haney does something quick to throw Kambosos off this game. I think that's going to be the probably the biggest keys to each one of those guys going back and forth, in my opinion. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you agree, disagree with any of that stuff? What do you got to add? There's got to be something else, because I know I ain't the know-all for all this stuff.
No, I think you nailed it. I think the only thing was it's a fight at 135. Is that right? I think it's 135. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. We saw Haney and, star of the show, Jojo Diaz. He couldn't knock Jojo Diaz out in 12 rounds. And Kambosos is probably two classes ahead of Jojo Diaz. So if you could knock out Jojo Diaz, I'd hate to think what's gonna have happen to you against Kambosos. So before we move on to predictions and all this, I'll cover Stephen Fulton fighting Danny Roman this weekend on Showtime. Both guys are orthodox fighters, fighting for the WBO and it looks like the WBO and WBC titles. There's not much of a height difference between these two. Fulton at 5'6", Danny Roman at 5'5". Fulton's 20-0 with 8 knockouts, while Roman is 29-3 with 10 knockouts. So the knockout power, it's just not there, but for both guys. But these guys are both fighters. Look, Stephen Fulton's last fight against Brandon Figueroa was pretty controversial. I had Figueroa winning. I think the entire world had Figueroa winning. But I guess they say the reason he lost is because Figueroa declared himself moving up to 126. And I guess they just did not want to put the belt on a guy who's planning on leaving the division. So they put it on Stephen Fulton. Fulton did a good job in the fight. I don't think he won, but I guess someone out there can make the case that he could have pulled off 7 rounds. I guess. I don't know. As far as Danny Roman goes, look, this guy's looking for a fight. He takes the fights that will come to him. other than that, I think this is going to be a good fight. I think Stephen Fulton needs to bounce back from that fight against Figueroa. He needs to prove that he is. Can't prove that he's better, but proves that he is a champion. Prove that he is the number one guy at this division, because right now it looks like he is ranked number one according to many websites. So fighting Danny Roman, who is probably hungrier and wants to prove that he belongs here as well. I think these two, their styles mesh pretty well. Fulton, I think, needs to be aggressive. Danny Roman, he already is aggressive, so I expect him to keep his foot on the gas. Out of that, there's not much. Is there anything you want to add that I missed?
I mean, you touched on Fulton and Figueroa, where Fulton won the belts. Well, at least they retained the WBO, won the WBC in his last fight, where he did, Figueroa did outland him in punches, overall punch stats. But what was it? Fulton was more accurate with his punches, right? And it definitely was controversial. I'm pretty positive I had Figueroa winning that fight as well. But it all depends on the judges that are there and what he got, right? And I don't think this is going to be an easy fight for Fulton by any means, because Daniel Roman, if I remember right, a long time ago, it was 2 years ago, but he fought Juan Carlos Piano, which we covered, because that was the biggest thing. It was a Charlo undercard thing. It was Charlo and a bunch of other cards. I mean, it was a massive fight day, especially for 2020 in that regards. And he ended up beating Juan Carlos Piano, and I thought he was Piano was going to beat him, Roman. So this definitely isn't going to be a power fight, right? There's not going to be a lot of flash knockdowns or anything crazy like that, but it should be a fairly actionable fight, and it should be still a good fight. I mean, they're both champions for quite a bit, so it should still be a good fight. But it would be interesting. But that's probably much all I got to have.
Yeah, like I'll add one more thing. Jamel Herring retired recently, and I feel like Jamel Herring on quite a few, maybe 3-4 fights, something like that. He got the better end of the stick. I don't want to say the short end of the stick, but I don't know what the opposite is. He didn't get the long end of the stick, but he got the better end of the stick, I guess you could say. And I think that's how Fulton has been. I don't think Fulton, if we were to rank this division, we would have Fulton number one. I don't even know if we have him at the top 5, to be honest with you. So I think this is a very big prove-it fight for Stephen Fulton. And Danny Roman is a very good matchup for him. I think once this fight's over with, whoever wins that fight is going to have to really step up their game, fight one of the top contenders at the division. So let's just go into predictions right now. James, Kambosos versus Devin Haney. What's it looking like? What you got?
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously we just spoke on the keys to victory a little bit ago. Man, this is a tough one for me, because obviously I give props to Kambosos for doing what he did. However, he's not proven for me, right? He doesn't pass the eye test for me, because the fight previous, he fought like dog crap, and I'm I was almost positive that Lopez was just going to knock him out. So bit of a surprise, but with that said, I think Haney is the more skilled fighter. The biggest question mark is that stamina. But even given that question mark, I am going to, he's got the card stacked against him. I'll tell you that right there. It's in Australia, 60,000 plus. It's going to be roaring. They're not going to like Devin Haney at all. It's going to be all ferocious Kambosos, and he's got a lot of stuff to overcome. But I think that it's going to end up being what I think is going to end up being a majority decision for Devin Haney. So someone's going to call it a draw. It's going to be close. It's going to end up being a majority decision for Haney, but he's going to have to work for it. He better realize that.
Look, I like that you brought up the fact that this fight's in Australia. By the way, the Fulton Roman fight's in our backyard here in Minneapolis at the Armory. The last time I remember a fight in Australia, it was Jeff Horn and Manny Pacquiao, a fight where I'm pretty sure Manny Pacquiao won, and they gave it to the hometown guy, and I'm kind of expecting the same thing. So my scorecard is probably going to have Haney winning. I'm going to say about 7 rounds, but it wouldn't surprise me if he wins 8. I don't think Haney wins 9 rounds on my scorecard. That being said, I'm taking Kambosos by decision. I don't think there's going to be a knockout in this fight, but I think Kambosos wins by decision.
This unanimous split majority. What you got? I picked
majority. I'll say there's going to be one person. Yeah, we'll say two judges are going to go for Kambosos. The other one will go for Haney, making it was it a majority or split decision? Split decision. So I'm going to go with split decision for Kambosos. Stephen Fulton, Danny Roman. Take your pick. Who you got?
Well, man, this is gonna be babyface assassin. I don't like Stephen Fulton's nickname.
Cool boy Steph. You don't like cool boy Steph?
I don't like his nickname. But
I'll call you cool boy James.
I don't need none of that. I ain't ice cold. This ain't Andre 3000. I'm probably gonna have to go with cool boy Steph. I don't think there's gonna be a knockout. It's just gonna be an outwork sort of deal. Not even an outwork. I think it's just gonna be more accurate. I think it's gonna be fairly similar to what happened with Figueroa. However, I just think that even the age gap for Fulton being younger, I think he's still just gonna be able to pinpoint his accuracy, do a little bit better. Hopefully he learns from Figueroa, but I think it's going to be probably unanimous decision, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be like 116, 112, probably across the board. But I think it'll be I think it'll edge in Fulton's favor, and I think it'll end up being in the championship rounds, those 10, 11, 12 rounds.
So yeah, Danny Roman, I think the only way he squeaks out a victory is by getting a knockout. I do not see him knocking out Stephen Fulton. I think Stephen Fulton has some work to do, and he's not as polished as he needs to be. I think this will bring out the best in him. I think Stephen Fulton wins by... It's going to be, I'm going to go with a unanimous decision. I think you're right. There's going to be no knockdowns. I think Roman might win a couple rounds here and there. There's probably going to be some very close rounds. I think the rounds Roman wins, he'll win decisively. We'll all see Roman clearly won that round.
Yeah.
As far as Fulton goes, there's going to be some close rounds. I think the judges are going to give it to him. He's going to pull it off. Fulton, unanimous decision. What do you think? Anything else?
I think that's about covers it, man. I think we're on the same page for that. So
word up. So let's close out the show. All right, that about does it for us this week. James, tell them where they can watch us and tell them where they can listen to us.
Well, if you want to listen to us, you can check us out on any major podcast site, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, or whatever Apple calls it. I'm an Android guy, so Android for life. Otherwise, if you want to watch our show, you can go to YouTube.com/Brews and Boxing and definitely check it out.
All right. Before I sign out here, I want to give a shout out to my boy CM Punk for winning the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing this past Sunday. Shout out to our boy from here in Austin, Minnesota, who passed away a year or so ago. John Madden is gracing the cover of Madden 2023, first time in 20 years. And on a more somber note, Minnesota Golden Gopher, former Gopher, Marion Barber III, passed away earlier today. So I will raise a drink for you, and that about does it for us. So for Judge Jimmy James, myself, and my little partner in crime, Mr. Gus, we will catch you guys another time. I'll drink to that.
Peace.